Hello, and welcome to another Capture the Flag edition of Daryl Show Your Work, episode 85 to be exact. All right, so this is going to be a two-part video, and the vulnerability that I'm going to be targeting and trying to exploit here involves a utility known as the unattended Windows setup utility. All right, and so before diving a little bit more into that, I just want to preface this by giving my usual disclaimer here. These series of videos are only for ethical research and educational purposes only. Any sort of malicious actions that may come directly or indirectly from someone watching my video, I do not take responsibility for, nor do I condone. All right, so this is going to be again a two-part video here, and so in this version of the attack, I'm going to show a more manual process of how to go about doing things. Where in my next video, I'm going to show a more automated method of exploiting this vulnerability using a specific tool. All right, but to give a high level overview of what the unattended Windows setup utility is, it leverages Microsoft's answer files to automate and customize Windows installations. It allows uninstallation of Windows apps and features and changes to the Windows settings during the Windows setup process. So it's a way of automating the installation, the setup of a Microsoft operating system or the removal of some features of that. All right. So anytime when you're using that, it is highly advised to remove that file from your computer, because if not, if an intruder were to get into your system, well, they can exploit the presence of that file, and I'm going to show us exactly how that can be done. So starting off within the target host here, I'm just going to enumerate some things here to get us started. And so in order to do that, I'm going to open up the command prompt window here. And let's get this out of here. All right. CMD. All right. So this is going to open up the command prompt, and then I'm going to say net user. All right. So this is going to show me all the accounts that's associated with this device. So we have an administrator account, then we have myself, which is the student account, and then we have the default account, and then we have a WDAG utility account, and then a guest account. All right, so we need to keep these things in mind as I seek to exploit this target. All right, so I'm gonna jump to the Kali machine. All right, the first thing that I want to do when I get here is I want to see what my IP address is, because we're going to need to use that throughout this video. So I'm say ifconfig, and here, since I'm on a local network, I'm on Ethernet 1 interface, and my IP address is right here, 10.10.48.10. All right. So the next thing I'm going to do here is I'm actually going to build a custom payload using the msfvenom tool. All right, and then we're going to try to upload that to our target host. All right, so I'm saying msfvenom -p, and so this is where I specify the location of the payload. So it's located in Windows. All right, let's see. x64 is in 64-bit meterpreter. So ideally, this should give us a 64-bit meterpreter session if successful. So I don't have to worry about migrating processes. I didn't spell that right. There we go. All right. TCP. All right. Then I want to give it LHOST. All right. So I already have my IP address saved here in Mousepad. So Let's copy that. Move this over here a little. There we go. All right. Not sure why it came out like that, but we can fix that. All right. And then I want to specify the listening port, which I'm going to list that as 1, 2, 3, 4. All right. Since that's a rather underutilized port, -F. And then as for format, I want to put this in an exe executable format. And then I want it to output this into a file called payload.exe. In a real life situation, of course, we wouldn't name it something as obvious as malicious as payload.exe, but for the purposes of the video, I will. All right, so let me just, it looks like the payload file was successfully created, and I could do a list command just to see, make sure it's in there. All right, and we can see that payload.exe is indeed in my local directory. Now, as I've done in some previous videos, I am going to actually host a Python-based simple HTTP server for our victim to connect to. And once I do that, then I'm going to, once I have that connection, then I'm going to attempt to upload this file to our victim. All right. So Python -m and then a simple HTTP server. And then we want to host this on port 80. All right. So let's get that started. All right. So now let's jump back to the victim's machine here. Let's see if I can increase this font. Properties, font. All right, let's change you to 24 as well so we can see what's going on. And I'm not going to go full screen with this because there's something we want to be able to see this thing land on the desktop here. It's successful. That's going to give us an indicator that that everything was successful. All right, so I'm going to change directory to my desktop directory. All right, now I'm going to use a utility called certutil, which is gonna allow me to download this file remotely from the hosted web server. All right, so I'm gonna say cert util, then I'm gonna say dash URL cache -F HTTP. We said this was 10. Let's see. Just want to double check here. See what is my IP? 1010 4810. Okay. All right. And then we want to download payload.exe. Then I need to specify that again. .exe. All right. So this is going to, so if everything works accordingly, this is going to, since I'm as an attacker, since I'm hosting um I'm hosting basically my device as a HTTP server, then someone from the outside should be able to then download what's in my current working directory, which as the victim machine, that's what I'm doing now. So we could pretend like somehow if I'm the victim that I was social engineered to go to this particular site and to pull this malicious file into my computer. All right, just use our imaginations here a little bit. All right, and it looks like that was successfully downloaded. We can see here on the left the payload file is indeed on the victim's desktop here. All right, now to jump back over into the Kali machine. Now that I've let me hit do Control C here to get out of that. All right, so now that I have that payload file over there, now I want to be able to remotely execute that. Well, I want to be able to capture a connection once the victim clicks on that file. I want to be able to set up something that allows me to capture that connection. Now I have a couple of options here. I could do the usual netcat listener, but I'm gonna go a different direction in this case, and I'm going to use a Metasploit module in order to capture this this connection once the payload is clicked by the host. Excuse me, by the target host. All right, and of course that's going to be the multi-handler utility. So I'm going to start up the Metasploit framework here. Service. First we got to start up the PostgresQL database. I'm going to combine that with starting up the Metasploit framework console. All right. Just give this a few seconds to load up. All right, so let's create a workspace for me to work in. So workspace -A, and we're going to call this, let's say UWS, as in unattended Windows setup. All right, and then let's make sure we're all good in that space. Yes, we are. All right, so I'm gonna start up the multi-handler. And again, what multi-handler does, this is going to allow me, excuse me, to receive the connection once the payload file has been executed, which again does so once the victim clicks on it. All right, so I'm going to set the payload to exactly to what to the actual payload that I set inside of the file. All right, so we have to make sure everything lines up here in order for us to receive that connection. So I'm going to set payload, and we're going to use that the same contents that's within our payload file. Interpreter, reverse, TCP. All right, so check my syntax here, making sure I've captured all the directories so it points to the right place. All right, looks like we're good to go there. All right, and let's show options. Let's see what else I need to configure here within multi-handler. Oh, I had to put an S on options. All right. So it looks like, all right, so we have to make sure everything lines up. So I need to make sure that my listening host and my listening port lines up. So I'm going to set the listening host to my IP address again, which is 10.10.48.10. Then we're going to set the L port to 1234. All right, and it looks like that should be everything I need to do in order to set up multi-handler. So I'm gonna hit run, and I'm gonna let multi-handler let me know that it's awaiting the connection. All right, so let's jump back over here to the target host. All right, so let's just do a dir. All right, so again, so we're also verifying here, even though we could visually see it here on my screen, just also wanted to confirm that I can pick it up by doing a dir command here too, as far as the payload.exe file. So I'm going to click on it, all right, and by clicking on it, right now we see that my calendar machine is waiting on that connection. So let's see what happens once I click on it. And we have a meterpreter session. All right. So now that we have that meterpreter session, now I've established a connection to that machine. I'm not all the way in, but I have a connection to it, so I could do some further enumeration. So I could do a get UID. All right. We can see that I'm student, as we saw previously. All right. So sysinfo. All right, we can see that this is running Windows Server 2019, and that is a 64-bit version of it. And we can also see that that we're running a 64-bit version of Meterpreter, which again was specified within the payload. All right, now I want to be able to hold on before I do that. Let's verify those privileges. All right, and we should see the same three privileges that we saw before, and there they are. All right, now it's time to target that unattended configuration file. All right, so I'm gonna run a search query here within Meterpreter and see it's gonna look within the local directory that I'm currently in to see if it can find that file. So I'm gonna say search dash F as in find, and I'm gonna give it a capital U um, N, and then I'm gonna say unattended, and we're looking for an XML file. All right, because that's what the unattended file format is in. All right, so let's search and let's give this a few seconds here because looking within the again within the target's local directory and seeing if it could find this file anywhere in there or any instance of the file, because it may give me various locations or various options depending on how many instances of this file type may be in there. All right. So we have three instances up here. So it looks like the first two are related to an Amazon EC2 virtual instance. All right. So we're looking for something Windows specific. So this third one is more of what we're looking for, even though these first two are very interesting. All right, so if I want, so it's telling me exactly where I need to go in order to access this. All right, so first we want to make sure I'm gonna go back and to ensure that I'm able to access this file. I'm gonna go through each folder. I'm gonna move up. I'm gonna go all the way back to root, and I'm gonna move up each folder to ensure that I get into the Panther directory to access this file. So first I'm gonna go into the C drives root directory. So I'm gonna say cd, all right, and then c colon dash, slash slash. All right, so I'm in a root directory. All right, then I'm gonna say cd Windows. All right, that moved me up to the Windows directory. Then I'm gonna say cd Panther. All right, then I'm gonna say dir. All right, just to make sure that file is in there. All right, we can see here at the very bottom that unattended.xml file. All right, so now let's download that to my local directory. So I'm going to simply say download unattended.xml. And that should, sorry about that, that should pull that into my local directory. All right, looks like it did. All right, so now let me open up a new terminal because we want to see what's inside of that. What's inside of that? What's inside of that file? So I'm gonna say cat. Well, first let's list this out just to make sure it's in there. All right, we can see here towards the end that the unattended.xml file is indeed in my local directory. So I'm gonna say cat unattend.xml, and let's see what that file, what the inside of that document looks like. All right, so we see some markup language here, which XML is indeed a web markup language. All right, so we want to focus mainly on down here. All right, so we see a password. It says password, and we see a value, but then we also see below it where it says plain text false. So this is going to tell us, this is telling us that this password is obfuscated. So it's using some sort of obfuscation technique, and I'm going to take a wild guess and say this is base 64. So we're going to try to decode this with the assumption that this is in base 64 format. All right. And then if we move down just a little bit, we can see that the username is administrator. All right. So we have an administrator password. Excuse me, username here. So this is why leaving this file inside of the this system here, this is why it's dangerous, because if I'm an attacker and I go and I access this file and I already have access to your system and I want to escalate my privileges, well, now I found an account that's associated with this file in order to escalate my privileges within your system, and I have both a username, and right now I have an obfuscated password, but I'm going to attempt to crack this password. All right, so again, with the assumption that this is running on a base 64 encoding, I am going to throw this in a document, and I'm going to attempt to decode it. So I'm going to use a different text editor this time. I usually run Nano. I'm going to say Vim. All right, just because I haven't covered it before. So I'm going to say Vim, and then I'm going to create a text document called password.txt. All right. So actually, I should. Well, I could just manually type it out. I meant to copy that password in here, but I can actually type it out for us. All right. So let's see here. Actually, let me actually do want to exit out. Hold on, give me a second, because I meant to copy that in here and I didn't memorize that. So I'm gonna just do escape colon WQ, and that's gonna get us out the document. All right. So let me copy this. All right. All right, now let's go back inside of Vim. All right, so I'm gonna copy this in here. All right, then I'm gonna say escape, and then do colon W to save it. All right, then I'm gonna do colon W to exit out. All right, and then let's just check my local directory here to make sure that's there. All right, we can see the password txt file is there. All right, so let's try to crack this. Let's try to decode this. So I'm gonna say base 64 -D for decode, and I'm gonna say password.txt, and this should decode whatever's in there. All right, that obfuscated string. Bam, there's our password. All right, so it looks like my assumption was correct. So that password is admin at 123. That's pretty easy to remember. All right, now assuming, again, using our imaginations here, that I somehow got inside the actual computer and got to the actual desktop. So once I'm here inside the desktop, what I can do is I can now let's open a PowerShell instance. I'm gonna say PowerShell. All right. Let's see, can I change the properties on that to give us some bigger font? Okay. And I could go full screen here. All right. So now that we're in here, all right, I want to say run as /user and then give it a colon, set administrator. All right. And I want them to open, go back. I want them to open another command prompt window. All right. And it's in that command prompt window, it's going to ask me for my password. Oh, okay. Well, it's supposed to open up. Let's see. 1, 2, 3. All right, let's see. See what didn't it like about what I ran here. Okay, let's try that again. Maybe it's because I went full screen. It didn't like it. All right. So run as is checking my syntax here. Okay, I see what I did wrong. Okay. All right, so going back here, got to specify the format. All right, let's try that again. Then admin at 1, 2, 3. There we go. All right, there goes our new command prompt window. All right, so now I'm running. If we look up here, it says running as priv dash esc administrator. All right, so I could adjust the font here for us so we can see everything that's going on. All right. All right, so I can run some simple commands here to say who am I. All right, it looks like I'm an administrator. So before we forget, this is a capture the flag edition of Daryl Show Your Work. All right, so now that we're in the machine and we have an administrator session, let's look for the flag. All right, so I'm going to say, let's go back to the root here of the C drive. All right, I'm going to do a dir. All right, so let's move up to, I'm gonna try to move up to my desktop here. So I'm gonna say cd users. All right, then I'm gonna say cd administrator, since that's who we are. All right, and then let's go to the administrator's desktop. All right, now let's look around there. Bam, there's the flag. If we look right here, flag txt, and let's output the contents of that flag. Oops. And bingo, we got our flag. All right, so that is a more, so what I just shown here was a more the long way of how to exploit this vulnerability of leaving the unattended Windows setup file within a system. But again, in my next video, I am going to show a more automated way where I use a specific tool on when it comes to exploiting this. But just to give a high level overview of what was accomplished here. So first, I did some initial enumeration of our targets. Then I was in the target host. We were able to see what account we were, what accounts were actually on the computer. and then also be able to see what privileges I currently had as a default user. All right, and so jumping into the attacker machine, first I had to find the IP address for that, which I did. Then I built a custom payload, which using an msfvenom utility, and packed that all into a specific payload executable file called payload.exe. All right, so once I was able to get that accomplished, um, then I jumped into the then I actually hosted a simple HTTP web server, and then using our imaginations here, we somehow tricked our target host into using that cert util tool in order to download the payload file from my local directory to their local directory. All right, and then as the attacker, I went inside the Metasploit framework, set up the multi-handler in order to pick up a connection once the victim clicked on that payload file that's now in their local directory. And so as the victim, I clicked on that file, and we were able to get a interpreter session. Once we got that interpreter session, we then dug around, seeing exactly who we were, and then we found that then we basically ran that search for specifically for the unattended that XML file to see if to look for the presence of that within our target host, which we did find actually three instances of it, two that were AWS EC2 related, but we wanted the one that was specifically related to Windows. So we downloaded that, took a look at what was inside of that file, which gave us then the credentials for the administrator account, but one of those, but with the actual password was obfuscated, and just using shooting into the air, taking a wild guess. I guess that it was encoded in base 64. So I threw that threw the the encoded string into a document, and then ran the base 64 decoder against that document, and it indeed did give us the plain text version of that password. So then, once our victim actually, excuse me, I'm getting a bit ahead of myself here. Um, um, once I had that password, assuming that as the attacker we got access to the victim's desktop computer, I went in there, did a run as command, a run as administrator, gave it the administrator username, gave it the password. That opened up a new command prompt for me, where I was now running the command prompt as administrator, and basically I had access to the administrator's local directory there. Did some digging within the desktop and found our flag. Again, that flag is symbolic for sensitive information that I can pretty much do anything I want with, as far as modification, deletion, exfiltration, you name it, depending on the nature of the file and what it is that I'm exactly looking for as an attacker. All right. So just remember, if you are using the unattended Windows setup file, to always delete that file from your computer, because again, if it's ever accessed by an intruder, this is what can happen, where they can gain they can conduct privilege escalation through gaining the credentials, found credentials within that file. All right, so please like, share, and subscribe. Most importantly, show your work. And until next time, take care of yourself, and God bless.